All right, I'm going to give it another 30 seconds. And while I do, I'm going to introduce our speaker. You've probably seen him speak in person. You've probably heard him speak on one of my webinars. He's extremely popular. He's in private practice in Connecticut, and he is co-owner of Nolaro 24, and they make the Little Steps foot orthotics, the Quadra-Step system, and now the new Tri-Step system. He's also the expert on pediatric foot and ankle conditions. His ACFAP seminar happens every year at a national park, and this year it's next week at the Rocky Mountain National Park. Are there any spots left in case somebody like definitely decides tonight they want to go?
100%. Come join us.
There's always room. Good.
Always room. Even if I have to sort of stash you in the suitcase to get you in, to smuggle you in, I will make sure that you come to our conference because it is the best conference in the world, especially with regards to pediatrics. So come join us. Look at that, 50-50. That's
Yeah,
amazing.
and 100% of the people online tonight answered.
Thank you
That's
very
amazing.
much to
Thank
everyone.
you.
Even those people
Yes.
that are on the beach right now with their phone like in their pocket voted. Thank you.
Yes, I love it. All right, so I'm going to close these poll results and turn it over to you.
So the name of this talk is Secrets of Foot Typing. I'm going to have to do a little bit of foot typing education, but for those who have seen me lecture on foot typing and the science behind it, make sure it's okay because reviewing it is never a bad thing. This webinar is how to explain and relate biomechanics to actual patients, and also how to educate them at the same time. Because I think you can know your biomechanics, but if you're not able to educate the patients or explain it well, you're really just some smart person who does not connect with your patient. So this was more like kind of an idea to be behind the scenes. A lot of the slides you're going to see if you've seen me lecture before are the same, but I'm going to try to give you some little nuggets of information that kind of take you behind the scenes. I put a little asterisk up there because sharing with your patients is encouraged. In fact, these webinars that I do, I often email my patients links to them. We did 1 month ago on connective tissue disorders, and I see a ton of connective tissue disorders, and I have my patients who I either suspect have connective tissue disorders or have them in their family. I email my patients those videos. And so feel free to use my videos as well, and we'll talk about that a little bit more, and we'll talk about that how I incorporate that into my office. I want to thank Nolaro 24 for sponsoring this webinar. Nolaro 24 and did an introduction on our company, but really thanking them not for the great products that we/they have, but for the biomechanical education that they profess, teach, and have helped out thousands upon thousands of my patients. So thank you to Nolaro 24. If you want more information, go to nolaro24.com. Excuse me, and mention this, but every year we do a pediatric meeting at a different national park. I saw that we're 4 people on this that were signed up that are actually coming to the meeting. It starts next Thursday, Friday, Saturday. It's in Rocky Mountain National Park in Estes Park, Colorado. You can email me or go to acfap.org to register. It's never too late. It is the most amazing meeting with pediatric specialists of all kinds, DOs, MDs, PTs, occupational therapists, physical therapists, speech therapists come. We get people from around the world, podiatrists, of course, and the lectures are top notch. The sharing is top notch. It's interactive, and it's just a really amazing experience. Oh, and we get to see one of the most beautiful places in the world. So, little pitch for that. Yeah. Everything you see in your office that comes in, short of blunt trauma or trauma that is unavoidable, is biomechanics. You've heard me say this many times. Fungal nails, hammer toes, flat feet, neuromas, heel pain, you name it, it's all about biomechanics. And if you don't know your biomechanics, you are doing a disservice to your patients. It's really as simple as that because biomechanics controls everything about how we walk, how our foot shapes itself throughout life, the conditions we have, everything, anything. You can't or shouldn't treat a patient unless you understand the biomechanical underpinnings of how that happened. You can't just rely on a lab to make you an orthotic if you don't understand the mechanics behind it. And it's my mission to teach colleagues how to not only learn that, but communicate it to your patients and be really a wealth of knowledge to the podiatric community in general. At the end of the day, I specialize in pediatrics because my mantra is never too early to treat, and you don't outgrow it. You either compensate or you suffer from it. So we start walking around the age of 1, and right away things start to go downhill. And you need to understand the biomechanical evolution of all of that. And our biomechanics, once again, as you've heard me say, is all about the genetics. Our foot structure, the way we move, the conditions we have, the issues systemically that we deal with that influence the foot, like connective tissue disorders. These things are all genetic and they all have a major influence on this. So, why am I going over these slides again? Because I want to make sure that you understand that the most important thing you can do in your practice is understand the biomechanics of everyone that comes in, because what that will allow you to do is educate your patients well and treat them better and actually make them not have their pain or not have their condition anymore. Secondarily, it's all about genetics. And we always ask patients, who gave you those feet and who did you give those feet to? And heard me say this before many times as well. Often I have 3, 4, 5, 6 people in the room, and we're looking at the full genetic tree on how biomechanics runs through families. It's so important. You can learn so much. Even if you see someone who's 30 years old, have them bring their mom and dad. Have them bring their brother and sister. Have them bring their aunt and uncle. Have them bring their cousins. So even if you're here just to understand the secrets of foot typing for the adult patient and you never see kids, that doesn't matter. Have those people bring other siblings, other parents, other kids with them so that you can understand the full genetic tree. Because if you don't understand the genetics or all the pre-existing conditions that are in the family, you also are at a disadvantage for helping the patient out as well. You'd be surprised. You have a patient coming in with a neuroma. It could be the difference between making them better and not is understanding where this came from, how this evolves in the family. Very, very powerful stuff. There are no good feet. This is, of course, good for business. Feet were not made for what we do, and there's always a problem somewhere, and it's genetic. And I think these things, these points have been sort of really stressed by me on many, many of these different webinars. And if you find this webinar interesting, go to podiatrymeetings.com. And I think this may be my, I don't know, 10th or 11th one that we've recorded that focuses on the biomechanics behind whether it's toe walking, in towing, common conditions, you name it, you name the issue, we've pretty much covered it. For those 50% of people that are not familiar with foot typing, or even the 50% that are, you should know that everything in my office biomechanically is based on this patent that we have, this patented foot type methodology on the left, patent number 7,789,640, I think. This is a patent on the algorithm of the adult foot type. And there are 24 different kinds of feet. You can see those feet on the left. And every single one of you and every single one of your patients 10 and up, I would say even as early as 7 and up, are on that chart. So any age, 7 to 10 and up, so 80-year-old, 40-year-old, 30-year-old, 11-year-old, somewhere they are one of those 24 numbers. And this is actually a patented foot type methodology. So we're not drawing straws, picking at straws here. We actually science behind the foot typing and foot structure. On the right is the 6 functional foot groups. And the right is basically a simpler chart to sort of boil down 24 different feet into 6 different categories. You can see, for example, for those of you who are not familiar, the 1, 2, 5, and 6 on the left, which are in the yellow shade, then turn into the A category. Because each of those 4, just like each of the 4 in each colored category or lettered category, are so similar and so subtly different that we can actually group them into each biomechanical category. And it's imperative that you at least have a knowledge of this poster and the 6 major foot categories, imperative in the sense of educating your patients. I'll get the slide later, I guess, but I wanted to make sure that everyone knew, and I'll show the slide in a minute, that in my treatment rooms, both of these posters are up, and for every patient that comes in, everyone leaves with knowing not only what number, but also foot group that they're in. I wouldn't say it's as important to give everyone a number. As you get better at it, you can. It's very, very important, though, to make sure that when every patient leaves and every non-patient leaves, you give them a foot group. And when I say non-patient, meaning everyone in the room over the age of 7 or 10 gets one of these 6. I think that, in general, from this whole lecture, is probably the greatest take-home message for you and sort of secret to good patient education, good patient compliance, and then successful treatment is having your patient understand the biomechanics in an easy way to understand, as well as a reproducible way, in a way that they can go online and they can follow up with your appointment. Patient comes into me, the appointment is not over after their initial half-hour patient evaluation. They are given homework assignment, they're giving their foot group, they're told to go online, they're told to research it. If there's a lecture I've given on it, I communicate to them. So the more information you can give the patient so they can go back and learn, the better. In general, the 6-foot categories are broken down into these percentages, with the blue C and the red E making up about half of all the foot types. So when we go through foot typing quickly, because there are half of you on here are not familiar with foot typing, you're going to practice this in your office, and you'll note that over 50% of all foot types are C and E. However, I would say probably over 60% of your patients that come in are either EF, and we'll go over that. But it's very, very important to understand sort of the general populations of patients, the A 12%, the B 2%, and so on and so forth. And it must be noted that 56% of all patients' foot types in North America have some sort of forefoot involvement. And this is important because when we're educating patients, and we'll talk about this again, on the importance of orthotics or good orthotics, you should know that more than half of your orthotics are going to need some sort of forefoot control. If you're ordering orthotics and more than 50% of your orthotics aren't coming back and they have some sort of forefoot control, you're either under-treating them or you're not treating them well enough. In fact, I would say that number is probably more like 60 to 70% of all my patients have some sort of forefoot control, because most of the conditions that we're treating, especially in the youth, have to do with the forefoot implications on the biomechanics and the conditions. So, do you educate everyone in the room when they come in? Why not? It's easy, and we're going to go over that. Everyone goes to my homepage. This is my homepage, cute little feet, but right up top it says, "What's my foot type?" And every single person who comes in who is over the age of, let's say, 7, is told to go to the website and click on their letter and research the information that goes along with their letter. When you click on one of those little circles or letters on my homepage, it takes you to the most amazing plethora of knowledge and biomechanics you'll ever find, an area which will teach the patient why they have their condition, where it comes from, so many important facts, why orthotics are important, and so on. So that's really the kind of the highlight of my website. Everyone goes there, and you should be thinking, and this is another behind the scenes thing, did you educate everyone in the room? And once again, why not? It's easy. And you're going to learn how to foot type. For the 50% of people on here who don't know how, you're going to learn how to do it. And even for some of you who are my patients, and I'm sending you to this future webinar that's being recorded right now, I'm going to teach you how to foot type your family members as well, so that they can make an appointment and get help from your local podiatrist. As well, it's very, very important that patients not only leave with knowing what foot type they are, but with either some link to a publication that either I've written or one of my colleagues have written that I think are important. And if you go to the patient education home tab on our website, there's a ton of articles that either I've written or others have written on different things. If I have a patient who comes in, for example, you can see right there, and they're an E foot type, I'm pointing them to there so that they can once again get more information about their condition through biomechanics. Once again, it's the biomechanics that creates the problem that's in your office, and educating the patients on understanding the biomechanics is extremely important for their compliance and success. It's not just important for us knowing what a patient needs, it's important for the patient to appreciate what's going on so that they can once again be a better patient, more compliant, and then thus, of course, the end goal is to do better. And this goes for people of all ages, not just the kids that I may see, but the adults as well, because it's never too late. Of course, it's never too early, but it's also never too late to start educating your patients and treating them. So it used to be 2.35 seconds that I was able to teach someone to foot type in, but we've narrowed it down now to 2.34. And this next few slides are going to kind of show you how do you arrive at which foot type each person in your treatment room is. Once again, over the age of 7 to 10, very, very important. Under the age of 7 to 10, we have plenty of webinars on that, but we don't have to go through these 4 steps to foot type. It's either 2 to 4 quick steps, and you would think that I would tell you it's either 2 or 4. It's really 2, but 4 steps can also help you sort of solidify the foot type, as well as be able to see things or show your patients things that are also connected to how to foot type. So how do we foot type? Step 1 is we simply look at the arch of the foot, and the arch of the foot is going to tell you whether you're on the left side of the chart or the right side of the chart. It's very simple. If a patient has an arch when they're standing in resting calcaneal stance position, and for those who don't know what that is, just standing, not holding your foot in any particular position, but just this is how you stand. If you can get your pinky finger under the arch on the inside of the foot, well, then they're on the left side of the chart. And if you can't, then they're on the right side of the chart. The A, you can get the pinky under. The C, you can get the pinky under the arch. The E, you can. And on the right side, you can't. Simple as that. So it's like taking a multiple choice test. You can do this at home, whether you're one of my patients watching this right now, or whether you're one of the doctors that wants to relearn biomechanics. Step 1, making sure that you know, and we'll do this in the office too. I'll have a patient stand up and I'll say, see this chart here? There are 4 quick steps. Let's go over them real quick. And because if I think it's important for them to educate people at home, often I'll get people that come in that, let's say a mom brings her child in and I'm foot typing the mom. I'll say, okay, well, I need to know what dad is. And since dad's never going to make the appointment with the child, I need you to go home and I need you to foot type them, because I need the more information on the genetic biomechanics I have, the better. Like, I want all patients to basically bring in a chart of their genetic tree, right? Like, great grandma Rosie, who came from Italy in 1919. I want to know what foot type she was. And then and then Grandma Rosie had 2 kids, and their 2 kids are this foot type. Like, I want the whole chain. And it's amazing when you see this sort of genetic tree, how similar not only the foot types are throughout generations, but also the patterns of orthopedic conditions. The ankle sprains have been 3 generations. Oh, my mother and my grandmother had bunions. Oh, my aunt had right knee pain, and I have right knee pain, and my grandma had right knee pain. It's just amazing. Or my mom, I remember when she was older, her nails were really fungal, and I'm really young and I'm getting fungal nails. There's a biomechanical genetic reason for all this. So once again, I know a lot of this is sort of kind of didactic review, but I want you to understand when I'm with a patient, the secret to I believe my success with patients, and I measure success not on how many patients I have, but on how well the patient is compliant, thus making them better. My success is predicated on always thinking about the biomechanics and always educating the patient on where they are on this chart. So, step one, back to the steps. You're either on the left side or the right side. Left side, you have an arch, right side, you don't. Step two, simple. They're facing away from you, so you're looking at their back and they're standing in place. Once again, if you wanted them to take some steps in place just to get comfortable, of course, they're barefoot. They're kind of marching in place and then they stop. Step two is going to determine the row that they're in. And if they march in place and they sort of, you're looking from behind and it looks like they're kind of standing a little bit toed in, meaning you can see the big toe, peekaboo toe sign. You can see the big toe. This would be indicate the big toe. See it on the inside, they're on the top row. If they're standing and their feet are sort of similar parallel, then they're neutral toe sign. They're in the middle row, and if they're standing and they're standing abducted or sort of kind of turned out, which is a very, very common way that patients are standing that come to podiatrist's office. Once again, probably 60% of your patients are going to be standing abducted. Then it tells you what row that they're in. So it's actually very, very simple once again to get step one, arch, step two, toe sign. The only little, wrench in this all is you must make sure that there isn't any sort of torsion coming from the knees. So flip around the patient, or if you're one of my patients and you're going around your husband and your wife or your sibling, look at their kneecaps, make sure their kneecaps are pointed forward, and then you kind of swing back behind them and then look which way their foot is. Because the C foot type, for example, if you don't line up the knees, they'll stand with their feet turned out. But then when you swing around their front, you'll notice that their knees are also turned out. So if you turn their knees in, they'll start standing parallel. So make sure that you do that. So that's step two. So in the two steps, like everything. It's amazing. And it's so easy to do, and you should do it with every single patient. And I know many of you on this webinar already do this in your office. And for those who don't, it's so easy to get started. I have posters that I can get you. You can email me. You can put them up in your room. You can take a screenshot of this and print it. You can print it in color. And there's hundreds of doctors I know that carry around this with them when they go into the room. And it's amazing because with two simple steps, like what I just showed you, you know what kind of orthotic to make them, you know what their clinical symptoms are, you can predict things that they've been through, things that are going to happen, things that have happened in their family. So many, many really awesome things. So you're ready to foot type after only two steps, but there are two other steps. But let's go over here real quick. These, so you can see like the ones on the left, those are the ones with the arch, and you can even break it down even more. Like the A, for example, always a high arch. The C is a medium arch, and then the E, small to moderate. Sometimes you can even get a little bit of a larger arch, but that's sort of the generalities of that. And on the right side, there's no arch; they're all flat. But this is a really nice slide to just kind of refresh your memory of where someone is on the chart. Step three is you can watch them walk. You should be watching every single patient walk. What I do, especially when I treat kids, is I tell mom and or dad how the patient is going to walk, and then I show them. So if I get a kid who comes in and they're spraining their ankle all the time, and they're standing and they have a really high arch and they have this peekaboo sign, I'll say to mom and dad, watch, when we watch your child walk, It's going to look like they're walking on a tightrope. It's going to look like they're, taking a sobriety test. Or they're trying to walk on a line. Uh, when I get a patient who has, let's say, shin splints as a teenager, I tell the parents, okay, watch one of the heels, watch it kick in, watch that heel pivot, because they're an E foot type. And it's amazing. Not only so, when you tell a person this, you're telling them, listen, this is what I'm going to see without seeing it. Because the power of foot typing is that you can know stuff before you see it. And so when you tell them that, two things happen. Number one, you show them when they walk, or you show their spouse or their, kid or whoever's help watching with you, that you know what you're doing, because you do. And number two, they'll interrupt you and say, "Oh my goodness, like I've noticed that on my child, or I've noticed that on my wife, or I've noticed that on my, aunt or uncle." And that's really, really powerful. And that's another reason why no matter what age cohort you treat, you should have as many people in the treatment room as you possibly can. Not only so you can educate more people, but you can talk to someone while someone's walking and show them. And it's, I can only imagine the conversation when a patient leaves, when they have multiple people in the treatment room, of how like excited they are to sort of finally understand this about their family. It's really, really, I think it's really, really rewarding, for everyone. And so gait, so the A foot type, a very narrow gait. The C foot type, because of the hips turn out, kind of this toe out John Wayne gait. The B is sort of kind of this like kind of towing inner gait with a flat foot. The D is sort of kind of the stomping gait, kind of pounding gait. The E is a twist, this heel pivot twist. I have a whole video just on the E foot type, because the E foot type is probably the most important, and pivotal, no pun intended, foot type for pediatric conditions, especially in sports medicine. And then the F foot type is turned out and flat, and we've seen that so many times. We call the A the chandelier shaker, because not only do they walk in a straight line, but they also pound the ground when they walk. Often when we have an A come in and I say, does your daughter, does your son, does your mother, does your father walk hard? And, there'll be laughter in the room, because once again, where you are on the chart of the six is what you do. And these patterns are reproducible. The C is that's sort of turned out. Again, the Fred Flintstone, because you're just kind of stomping. The runway model, because the twist in the heel that you see, creates like a big hip swagger. So you kind of look like you're on the runway, with that foot type. Oh, we have some videos here too. That's cool. I didn't even know that. It's like a Bob Ross happy surprise. So you can see that A, you can see that C. Oh, I love it. I'm going to have all the videos playing at the same time. Yes, this is a surprise to me too. If you're watching on your computer, this is a cool slide. I know this is going to go on podiatrymeetings.com, but the first two stopped. That would have been cool if they all played. But yeah, isn't that neat? You can see how these people walk, and you're going to see this all the time. Let's go back up. Oh, yeah. So that, hey, look at that. Like a tightrope. And you see that big toe, that peekaboo toe? Yeah, you see all that tension in the Achilles? We're going to talk about Aquinas. See all that tension in the peroneals? No, probably not, but there is. These people sprain their ankles. Now look at that C, that John Wayne, that's me. They just are externally rotated, tons of lower back, tons of hip problems, tons of Aquinas. They don't see us much, but they sure do need us. Um, that B, not many, 2% of the population, but that's that flat foot that just kind of boom, turns in and flattens out. That D, look at that, just Fred Flintstone in it, just pounding down. That E, boom, check out that heel whip, boom, hit whip, whip, whip. And you can imagine those hips are swaggering right now above top. Watch your spouse tonight. Watch your kids. Watch your mom, dad, whoever lives with you. Um, maybe you have some visitors over. Make this a party. They have those like Tupperware parties. Have a foot typing party. Why not? What's more important than your feet and biomechanics? Nothing. That's the answer. Look at that one. Look at that F foot. Look at that posterior tibial tendon dysfunction waiting to happen. Look at that tarsal tunnel waiting to happen. Look at that mid-tarsal joint collapse waiting to happen. That subtalar joint collapse waiting to happen, or happening, or happened. All right. Wow, that was exciting. That was a nice surprise. I love happy surprises. Step 4, you can look at the calluses. Check that out. This is a really great slide because it kind of shows you the calluses that occur with these foot types. So this is also another good screenshot. It also talks about some of the conditions that we see with each of these. And yeah, not just calluses, not just the way someone walks, not just the structure of the foot, but also the conditions that patient come in all make sense as well and all add up. So here's my treatment room. This is actually our old floors. We had these replaced with a nice gray. I'll have to take a new picture, but you can see I have my 24-foot type poster. I have my 6-foot type poster. I have a few nature shots that I like to take when I travel. And I have my quadriceps, of course. We'll talk about that in a minute. Got a few extra chairs for guests, parents, siblings, aunts, uncles, cousins, you name it, the whole fam. Everyone's coming in, genetic trees, biomechanics. Quadriceps System, this is a sponsor of our lecture today. That when we created the 6-foot types, we also created an orthotic for each of the 6 that a patient can actually stand on. It has all the bells and whistles. Each foot type, like the A, for example, there are 5. You can see these top 5 drawers with the yellow in front. There are 5 different sizes. And you have this patient stand instantly on an orthotic that may or may not be even perfect for orthotic, where they don't need a custom orthotic. And we have one color for each of the 6 categories. And so that's really, really helpful. And you can email my partner, Roberta Knoll, or Roberta N at Nolaro24 if you want more information. And we actually, Roberta and I, each year, we do a master's class, and I think we're doing it in April of next year. So you can email me for the date or email Roberta for the date, where we do 2 days immersive learning the 24-foot types. Here's one of those drawers that you saw in my first shot there. Got all the orthotics in there, including, of course, the pediatric orthotics, the gait plates, the little steps, at ready to either dispense to the patient, so they leave with a custom to foot type orthotic that basically has all the bells and whistles of a custom, or we use these as a template for a patient standing on, so we can make a possibly even better custom orthotic for the patient. Deciding on custom versus over the counter or quadriceps, insurance is always a factor. I'm the type of person, I talk to patients about price. I don't hide price. I don't make my checkout patient staff reveal the price and shock the patient. That's not the way to. I don't believe that's not the way for medicine. The way I approach insurance is I always know whether the patient has coverage for both custom or an over the counter when I go in. So I always know this information beforehand. I ask my staff, they tell it to me, and I address it. But I don't treat a patient based on if they have insurance coverage with a bias. I say to them, I'll give you an example. They don't have insurance coverage. I could save you some money with an over the counter, but you need a custom. It's just as simple as that. So it's going to be money well spent. I mean, I'm really kind of speeding up my talk with them, but how I present it to them. But I'm very open with them, and I tell them is all I want is the best for them. I'm upfront about the price. Um, I mean, if you do the math, if you get them a quadricep and you're charging, let's say, a couple $100 for it, or you're doing a custom and you're charging them $600 for it, let's just say, you also can talk to them about the lifespan of them. Quadriceps going to last you 2, 3 years. Custom, depending on how long a patient milks them, are going to last 5 to 7 years or so, depending on the lab you use. So, there's always that factor too of how long they last. Um, Tell them if you have the quadriceps, which I know a lot of you on this call do already, that you have the best thing, the custom. If it doesn't work, then custom it is. And I have all patients that I think potentially can get a custom to foot type orthotic, a quadricep orthotic. I have them stand on the ones that I think are the most likely ones until I find one. And incidentally, for those not familiar with the quadriceps, so you can see that person standing on the red ones on the left. So that orthotic has the heel cup and medial rear foot posting you would need in a custom. It has the extrinsic forefoot posting you would need in a custom. It has the fifth array cutout you would need in a custom. It has the first met relief you would need in a custom. It has the appropriate skive in the orthotic already you would need in a custom. It has the appropriate durometer of the orthotic already in there, how flexible it is. But it isn't always perfect. And so if my patients are watching and you're like, well, why did you get me custom? You should have put me in the quadricep. I may have not thought it was absolutely perfect for you. And my goal is absolute perfection. And of course, I can not always achieve that, but that is my goal. And I find that's the value of learning the 24 foot types, even over the six, because if you put a patient in the quadricep based on what letter they are, you're going to get really close to perfection. If you know what number they are, though, you are going to get to perfection, and that may meaning making a custom for the orthotic versus a quadricep, or maybe even modifying a quadricep, which a lot of our customers do too. But it's a nice piece to have because if I'm writing a prescription for a perfect orthotic, I want to know how do they look in this orthotic, and that'll guide me on how to make an even better orthotic. So it's an amazing tool. I mean, and there's so many videos we've done for podiatry meetings. You can go back and I take you through exactly how to foot type in more in depth and how to stand on an orthotic and do all that stuff. Um, Getting so good at giving everyone a number. Um, Once again, we do our master's class every year where we teach the 24 foot types, and the stuff is patented. It's biomechanics with a patent, which is really phenomenal. I think it's very, very important kind of taking you behind the scenes a little bit on how I explain orthotics to patients. So many patients come in and they have over-the-counter stuff, and which is marketed as an orthotic. But basically, the way I explain to patients what's the difference between an orthotic and everything else that's sold at the drugstore or the local convenience store or machine they stood on in the sports store or shoe store, the difference is that an orthotic or a custom orthotic that we produce is really going to be a series of wedges in strategic areas to bring the ground up to parts of the foot. For example, let's just say the E foot type, for example, that's a rear foot varus with a forefoot varus. So that's the bottom left of the chart. So you're strategically bringing up the rear foot, you're strategically bringing up the forefoot, then you're building the arch around that, and you're sort of kind of wedging the foot to get closer to more of a neutral position, as opposed to everything over the counter is just kind of filling the arch and sort of trying to falsely control the motion of the foot by jamming the arch. That's basically everything that's out there is all it is basically just kind of jamming the arch up, which works for some people, but people come to us because we're professionals and we're supposed to know our biomechanics and we're supposed to know exactly what to do for a patient. And that's the difference between a real orthotic and everything else over the counter. So it's a good thing to explain to your patients. Um, I put this in here because every patient that I foot type, I also measure their ability to dorsiflex at their ankle. And I measure equinus both with the knee extended and the knee slightly flexed. And many, many patients in general who have foot conditions require equinus intervention. A good friend of mine, Pat Tahir, invented the Equinus brace. I don't have a picture of it, but it's the EQ brace, and we use these like crazy because the success of an orthotic, I would say, kind of, I could give you a top three list, and I'm about to give away a secret here. But one is a good orthotic or understanding your biomechanics. Two is understanding the influence from upstairs down, and one of those big things is Aquinas. And then number three is going to be shoes as well. Many patients that I get that come in are never educated about shoes and the kind of shoes that they should wear their orthotics in. You need to be having a shoe talk with a patient when they pick up their orthotics. I don't think beforehand because I don't want a patient buying shoes before they get their orthotics, and that obviously has to do with shoe fit and buying the wrong size shoe and such. But shoes are ultra, ultra, ultra important here. Oh, there it is. There's the Aquinas brace goes above the knee. I would say, one of those things that I wish I invented, but people leave my office all the time with those things, and they're amazing. Just stretching someone out does the world of good. As well, it helps them tolerate their orthotic better. It helps the orthotic work better. And a lot of this long-term stuff where an adult comes in with is is really muddled in Aquinas. And your success is really predicated on getting them stretched out so they can move their body comfortably over their foot at their ankle joint. It's so critical. If you're not measuring Aquinas in every single patient, you are missing a huge piece of the biomechanics puzzle. In fact, if you've heard me lecture before, and a lot of this is redundant to you, I bet you're still not doing this. And if you learned one thing on this, it is do this every single time and you will never be sad that you did it. And normal adult patients should have at least 10 degrees of dorsiflexion relative to the long axis of the leg, meaning you can bend the foot up to about an 80-degree angle relative to the leg. And most of these people who come in, you're at over a 90-degree angle. Remember, put them in subtalar neutral, supinate the foot, and then dorsiflex them. And we're actually, Roberta at our conference next week is going to be going over how to measure this stuff as well as hip measurements and all that stuff. So very exciting. I can see we got some questions building up. So I promise I won't go too late with this. I'll leave 10 minutes. Shoes. Up there, this isn't the most current sheet, or maybe it is, but we give shoe suggestions based on where someone is to every single one of them. You can know a lot about how a patient walks just by their wear pattern. What I like to do is I like to say to a patient, I bet you your wear pattern is on this part of your foot. And then they turn their shoe over and they're like, how did you know that? Because once you know the foot type, you know how they walk. And educating a patient on shoe is so super important. A few little pearls on each foot type. So the C, that's once again the John Wayne foot type because they kind of walk their hips turned out. A lot of patients with low back pain. And so you may not get a lot of referrals for low back pain, but if you're doing this genetic screening, and you're looking at spouses, you're looking at cousins, you're looking at parents, you'll know a lot of people who have lower back pain, hip pain, and they walk like a gunslinger, and you'll get them to make an appointment with you. They're often sent to physical therapists, they're often sent to ortho, but a lot of it actually comes from their foot. Another thing, that little pearl behind the scenes about them is they almost always, and when I say almost always, because nothing is always, need an Aquinas brace. If you're a C and you come in, you're getting an Aquinas brace. Because inevitably, if you're not a little kid, the tightness is already starting to wreak havoc either on your back, on your Achilles, on your plantar fascia, you name it, anywhere in the posterior complex. These people walk once again like a gunslinger, hip pain, low back pain. Um, yeah, I mean, just knowing those little pieces of information is really amazing. I joke sometimes with my patients too. If you watch them walk and you look up at their butt, they have very flat butts because their gluteal regions are always on vacation, and so their pants are always hanging a little bit low too. And as amusing as that is, it's true. So if you're one of my patients and you're watching this and you think you're a C-foot type, um, how big's your butt? I mean, it's crazy, but it's true. Callus patterns, a lot of those medial hallux callus patterns. The A foot, what do we need to know about the A? These people walk like a tightrope, I said. Ankle sprainers. They're ankle spraining because they have a super high arch, tons of posterior chain tightness. They have a rear foot varus, forefoot valgus, so their foot is always being rocked. And these are kids, athletes that come in and they're constantly spraining their ankle. Ortho's not doing anything for them. PT is not really doing anything for them. They re-injured themselves. They can't play sports. Um, this is a very common foot type. They walk really hard. They shake the chandelier when they walk. Lateral ankle instability, peroneal tendonitis, that callus under that first med head, sesamoiditis. If you see that and you see a really high arch, voila. And I'll tell you, I love the quadriceps. I get a lot of patients quadriceps. This one, the A that we made, is unbeatable. Better than most custom orthotics out there, hands down. There's that callus pattern, most of the time just under the first, sometimes under the fifth as well. The E, I have a whole webinar on the E. The runway model, this is the foot type that starts out with gross motor delay in kids who toe walk in Intel. I'll be talking about that at ACFAP next week. Progresses to growing pains, progresses to shin splints, endurance issues, knee pain, hip pain, IT band syndrome, and so on and so forth. This is the foot that, once again, pivots. This is probably your most common foot type if you're someone like me who specializes in kids, or even in the adult population. This is how they look, once again, that abducted stance, and all these things, these Taylor's bunions, the second met head, calluses, porokeratoses, plantar fasciitis, medial knee pain, shin pain, you name it. There's an article that Anne has linked on Podiatry Meetings called Evolution of the E Foot Type that I wrote, that you can go on there and you can read about this, the most important foot type in my opinion. And yes, I am biased. Second and fifth calluses. The D, the Fred Flintstone, tons of knee pain. Remember, these people just kind of sort of plod along. Um, Tons of neuromas, tons of metatarsalgia, tons of knee pain, kids who don't like to run, kids who are overweight, kids who just hate doing sports that involve running. That's the D. Adulthood, hallux limitus, patellofemoral pain, neuromas, dorsal bunions, you name it. Once again, check out the other videos if you want to know more about these. But if you are this foot type, you probably had or will have most of these symptoms. This is why orthotics really are important pretty much for everyone. And remember, there's no good feet. And based on where you are in this chart, you're going to have one of these symptoms. Callus pattern on those. The F, we all know the F. I'm going to fly through the F. The flat foot, abducted, posterior tibial tendon dysfunction. Tarsal tunnel, plantar fasciitis, just tons and tons of problems. These people hate to run too, or they try to run and their foot kills them later in life. The foot breaks down, tons and tons of problems. And the B, once again, adult, and they're kind of flattened until you're not going to see this much. So we'll skip over the B. So here's a nice little chart you can take a screenshot of either now or when the webinar goes live on podiatrymeetings.com. This is a really great slide to sort of kind of refresh you and kind of show you the different way the person stands, the arch height, their gait pattern, as well as their callus pattern. Everyone gets foot type. No one leaves the room without this information. Everyone, no matter what they come in for, knows what their foot type is. There are many different congenital foot types. Each foot type needs a different kind of orthotic correction. Tell them which quad they're in. This is how you walk, why you have the symptoms. There's so much great education here. And why didn't your prior 19 pairs of orthotics didn't work? Because I didn't make them. It's as simple as that. And you need to be confident with your biomechanics. We are doctors, and we are paid to have the answers. And it's our obligation as podiatrists to understand the biomechanics to get those answers, whether you do surgery or not. And honestly, especially if you do surgery, because you better know why you're cutting. Um, and by the way, of course, you have kids, you always want to ask that. Quadriceps system, you can email info@nolaro.com. You can email me, you can email Roberta. I'll give you those email addresses at the end. Great system for people that want to get started with this. Once again, my treatment room. This is a very common, very, very common site in my treatment room of 5 family members all having different kinds of orthotics based on what they need. who gave you those feet and who did you give those feet to. This is a nice slide. Maybe take a screenshot of this too. This shows you kind of the plantar view of the foot. And once again, come join us next week. We're actually going to be talking about some of the stuff out there. Come hiking with us, and we can talk about foot types for 12 hours in a row if you want. And thank you. And I didn't leave much time. There's so much to cover, but why don't you take it over and let's do a bunch of questions. Um,
Yeah, we actually
I
have
saw
some
there was
good
some building
questions.
up, and I'm excited to answer them.
Yeah, I'm excited that there are some. All right, so if you haven't asked your question, go ahead and take a minute to type it into the Q&A box now. All right, we're going to start off from the top. Aha! I always knew baldness was caused by biomechanics.
Yes.
I love the
Stephen, I'm
enthusiasm.
telling you, it's amazing, right? You can blame everything on genetics and not just baldness, but foot type as well. I love that. I may have to steal that from you.
Will you share a printable PDF of your foot types chart, please? Or tell us
Ooh,
where
that
you can
sounds like
find
an
it.
and project.
Yes, it does.
And
I
can you
know where
put
we can
that
find
next to
one.
this can you put that next to this webinar in the recording section like you did with the E foot type?
Yes, I'm looking for my pen to write this down. Foot type
Brooke, I love
chart.
it. This is great. And you know what, Brooke? I'm going to make my patients print it out to prove that they went to the webinar. Love
That's
it.
awesome.
Love it.
All right, so yes, I will find that and share it and link it with the recording when that's available. How do you explain neutral to patients?
Ooh, I love that question. So what I tell each patient is that you are on the chart based on how your foot was screwed onto your leg. And there are 24 different ways your foot can be screwed onto your leg. And the neutral position is how it was screwed on. And that neutral position, the way that it was screwed on, is how you land. And then what you have to do to compensate and adapt for that structure, that neutral position, going from that neutral position to a position that you can propulse from. That's the deficit that you have to fill with an orthotic. So I'll actually have a patient stand. I'm glad you brought this up, and I'll put them in a neutral position and show them. Let's say they're an E. I'll put them in a neutral position. You'll see the medial aspect of the heel will come off the ground medially, and you'll see the front of the foot come off the ground medially. And I'll show them, see, this is your neutral position, and this is what you have to get down to the ground. So we're going to have to wedge up to neutral. Great question. Thank you for bringing that up.
All right, do you go straight to custom-made orthotics for patients with two different foot types?
So my rule in general, great question, is that I get whatever is best for the patient. And if a quadristep is best for the patient, they have two different foot types, they get two different colors, right? They get a red in their left, they get a blue in their right, if that's what's best for them. So I'll often have patients stand on two different colors because, yes, they definitely often are two different foot types. Love it.
How do you address a patient's misbelief that wearing an orthotic might weaken the foot?
Yeah, I mean, it's just not true. It's a really great question. I try to explain what their foot is doing and how that has affected them, and how basically creating something that changes that motion will benefit them. And I draw the analogy to like a pair of eyeglasses that someone would wear, where you're basically taking a foot that is, I'm not going to call it weak, but is has a structural issue with it, and you're basically helping support that structure. And there's nothing of that that's going to make it weak whatsoever. I show them how imbalanced the muscles are in the posterior column versus the anterior column. I show them how their foot is going from a neutral position to their resting calcaneal stance position. There's so many ways. That's something that I think I'm going to write an article about, and that is gonna be one of the questions. So Anna, stay tuned for that. But that is definitely something that I want to go a little bit more in detail on.
All right, can you share the shoes list that you had in the presentation?
So go to decaropodiatry.com, and you can find it. And our latest list is on decaropodiatry.com. Just go to the, I don't know, it's like a shoe tab and it's PDF, and we always keep that updated.
All right. I lost my Q&A screen because I was busy going to caropodiatry.com. There we go. Okay.
A
How can I order the
good problem
orthotic?
to have.
How can I order the orthotic for the different foot types?
So,
I
you
love
can,
this question.
yeah, right. So first thing you need to do is email Roberta N at nolero24.com. Roberta's my partner, and she's at our HQ in Connecticut. My practice is in Massachusetts, and
I'm sorry.
that's
I'm sorry.
okay. That's okay. You know, I like to try to hide. But yes. And you email Roberta N at nolero24.com, and she will thank you, Anne. You just made up for it. And she will hook you up with an order form and all the ways to order it. And I encourage you to come to our master's class, which I did set the date for, but I can't remember the date. I think it's sometime in April of 2026, but just stay
You're a
tuned.
terrible self-promoter.
I'm a terrible self-promoter. Absolutely. We're just gonna have to do another webinar.
Yeah. Okay, so I just dropped a ton of stuff in the chat. So there's a link to the posters from the foot types. There's a link to their resources page on their website that has a ton of other stuff. There's Roberta's email if you're interested in ordering or have like specific questions. And the shoe recommendations from Takero's website are on there too. And it is 9:01. Like you killed it. Your timing is
All right.
perfect.
I love it.
Good. All right, so we probably have at least one more webinar with Nolaro24 before the end of the year. And of course, if you have any questions, you can send them to him or his team or send them to me and I'll pass them along. And hopefully some of you are going to ACFAP and you'll see him next week. And if you're not registered but are interested, you can still register. And that website is it acfap.org? Is it that
Yes.
simple?
Good guess. It's
Cool, I'm awesome.
ACAP. It's not ACFAS and it's not AFLAC. AC, there we go, /events. I love it.
I'm on it. All right, people. Thank you very much for being here tonight. Thank you to our speaker. I appreciate you always. And if you ever have any questions or you want to see the replays of this, they're always on the archives page on my website. By the way, I have a brand new website coming soon, and I can't
Ooh,
wait to launch it. It's so beautiful. I'm so excited. All right,
great. Thank you,
everyone.
man.
Thank you very much. Take care. We'll see you next time.
Bye.
Good night.
Good night.